And now, a favorite story from the Bible, the Book of Ruth. This is the story of a small family from the town of Bethlehem. They are Elimelech and his wife Naomi, and their two sons Mahlon and Chilion. This being the promised land and all, one of the frequent famines that plague the area compels our little family to move to greener pastures in Moab. It's not mentioned whether any other families felt under duress, as only this one family is mentioned as leaving. Anyway, Elimelech up and dies of unnamed causes not long after arriving in Moab. The two sons marry Moabite women named Orpah and Ruth. After 10 years in Moab, both sons up and die, for reasons unknown. Both of Naomi's now widowed daughters-in-law seem to be very fond of her, and her of them. Naomi urges them to stay in Moab and find new husbands, while she, widowed and bereft of her sons, returns to her homeland. Orpah parts from Naomi with reluctance, but Ruth won't be separated from her.
Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God.
Naomi relents, and she and Ruth head back to Judah, where Naomi has heard God has averted the famine he allowed to happen. They go back to Naomi's hometown of Bethlehem, where Naomi is recognized despite her long absence. When people hail her as Naomi, she tells them not to. She now wants to be known as Mara, which means bitter apparently, because
the Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me.
Ruth goes out one day to glean some grain from a nearby field that is being harvested. As it turns out, this field belongs to Boaz, a relative of Naomi's deceased husband. Boaz shows up and kindly greets his workers, and they respond in kind. Boaz asks one of his field hands who the new girl is, and they tell him she is the Moabite woman who is the daughter-in-law of the recently returned Naomi, and that she asked permission to glean and has been there all day. Boaz calls Ruth in from the field and tells her to rest for a bit. Knowing the average guy in this savage part of the world doesn't know when rape is or isn't appropriate, he tells her he has already given the male workers explicit orders.
I have told the men not to lay a hand on you.
He lets her know she can glean what she wants and help herself to water and rest when necessary, and eat food at his table. Ruth is grateful and wonders why he is being so nice. He says he knows who she is, and he is impressed how she has stuck by her mother-in-law. Naomi tells her daughter that she needs to find a man in whose household she can live, and this Boaz guy is the clear front-runner. She tells Ruth to find Boaz when he goes to work the threshing floor, wait until he lies down to rest, and then sneak up on him while he's snoozing. She is to uncover his feet and lie down there and await further instructions. Ruth goes to the threshing floor and follows her instructions, and Boaz awakens, startled to find a girl at his feet. She asks him to cover her with his garment. Apparently this whole lie at his feet and ask to be covered thing is equivalent to a come on, and far from being angered by this young woman throwing herself at him, Boaz is pretty stoked.
The Lord bless you, my daughter. This kindness is greater than that which you showed earlier. You have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all you ask.
But first he has to offer her to another guardian redeemer, who is more closely related to her. Surely recognizing how improper this all looks, what with a young girl propositioning an old man and all, Boaz tells Ruth to sneak out under cover of darkness.
No one must know that a woman came to the threshing floor.
When Boaz is back in town, he immediately encounters the guardian redeemer who gets first shot at buying Naomi, Ruth, and Elimelech's land. The unnamed guardian redeemer says, "Sure, I'll buy it," until Boaz informs him it's a package deal. He has to take the women with the land. The guy begs off, worried about the effect on his estate if he brings in additional claimants to property he owns. Boaz jumps on the opportunity and buys the land and the women in front of the elders and seals the deal with a sandal. Kindly old Boaz takes his newly purchased bride Ruth, and God makes sure that they have a kid.
When Boaz made love to her, the Lord enabled her to conceive.
Hey, you know what would have made a ton more sense and been way less gross? Boaz marrying Naomi. They would have been much closer in age, and God could have stepped in if necessary to make Naomi fertile, like he did with Sarah. Ruth could have married someone young and vigorous like herself, and everyone would have been happy, right? But God doesn't allow that to happen. Why not? Let's come back to that in a moment. For now, Ruth bears Boaz a son, Obed, who ends up being the father of the Jesse that is the father of David. This links Jesus all the way back to Judah through Perez, Judah's child and Boaz's great-great-great-great-grandfather. And that's it for the book of Ruth. So, what to make of this story? Some people cite it as a timeless message of faith, personal sacrifice, and the deeper issues of life and human fulfillment. While it's nice that Ruth stuck by her mother-in-law, a lot of stuff has to be read into it to fluff it up into the big morality tale the above-referenced website makes it. Supposedly, Ruth is impressed by Naomi's piety toward her one true God, despite his malevolence. Don't forget that it was a famine that made them flee Bethlehem, and Naomi's husband and both sons have died for God's sake. Nothing in the actual narrative suggests Ruth was impressed by Naomi's piety back in Moab. In fact, Ruth declares she will follow Naomi's God even after Naomi states that her Lord has turned against her. This is a story of total devotion by Ruth, not necessarily a healthy thing. And this devotion is accentuated by her willingness to follow Naomi even into a foreign land ruled by a hostile and malicious God. And in this land where a widowed woman's life is in constant peril, does God show up to help? Nope. He could instantly and effortlessly improve both widows' fortunes in any of a multitude of ways. Instead, he puts them at the mercy of crude, barbaric men and a patriarchal totalitarianism that allows an old man to wed a young woman by taking advantage of her fears of starving to death or worse. It's disgusting, and the creepy old men of the time probably loved this story and how it legitimized their domination of women. Seriously, folks, read your Bible. Better yet, read the HB&E. Thanks for watching.